Hello, good evening. So, I've got a twitch in my eye right now, and I don't know if it's because I've been studying so hard and trying to concentrate, or if it's a combination of everything that's going on, because I started getting eye twitches, especially on the side with where I had my tooth filled in. And when I had gone to the VA the first time to explain that, hey, I had this piece of my tooth fall out, and I explained to them that I was getting nerve sensation across my face and the eye twitching and my neck and all these other issues. I was told it was all in my cervical spine. And you know, the irony is, again, I go back to the story I was sharing about how when my dentist created the bite, took a picture of my teeth normally closed without the bite and showed the compression between each of my cervical vertebrae, which means any grinding and clamping down of my jaw would cause squeezing and the narrowing between each of the vertebrae and discs in my neck. Whereas putting a bite in there showed the decompression and the space that was created as a result of shifting my bite. Now, isn't that interesting that, I actually shared that with the doctor that day, and he said, oh, that's something interesting. I've never heard of that. Now I learned something. Like, I learned something from him and he learned something from me. And here's where the biggest disconnect, and I'll go back and forth on this again. I mean, not back and forth, but I can talk about this because it's my personal experience. That clearly, if we're clamping our jaw down and they don't want to talk about dental when you're talking to medical, and medical doesn't want to talk about dental, they act like it's the medical that affects the dental, but it's simultaneously one part. You can't take the parts apart and try to say they don't impact the other. Literally impact. So clenching down on my jaw causes the tightening and the stress, the strain on my neck travels down into the back. I mean, chiropractors even notice this. They're aware of the correspondence of the jaw to the spinal vertebrae. So I'm frustrated about that. But the eye twitching, he basically said, he said eye twitching is contributed by kind of like when you get a cramp in your leg. It's the eye twitch is the cramp of the eye when it's overused. And he said it was fatigued. So I need more rest. I agree. I need more rest. I need to go to sleep early tonight anyway, because tomorrow morning is my VA appointment, and I have to discuss this, and hopefully we'll see the VA rep I think it's the DAV, to hopefully he'll be able to help me more on my benefits package. The other weird thing is, the other day I noticed I have a spot on my butt. I'm a Florida girl now. I mean, I've lived in Maine, Massachusetts, New York, and here all of my life moved around. I love the sun. I'm a Leo, so I worship the sun. And I don't like to use sunscreens because a lot of the chemicals that we put on our body are the reason that we get these types of cancers. It's the stuff we put in, the stuff we put on. Our skin is our largest living, breathing organ. And so we don't know how much of what we've put on our skins has contributed to the skin cancers out there. They're only just now figuring all this stuff out. That our environment, we've been poisoning ourselves, but we can make better choices. And this is what I'm learning and always trying to strive for every day. The more I know, the more I can do better. And then the next day, improving. Aren't we always trying to improve upon the better version of ourselves the day before or the moment before? So I was just happening to notice I don't want to make a big deal about it, but I'm a little concerned and a little stressed out because I'm like, okay, one more thing to worry about. Now I've got a spot that doesn't look normal. It's a dark brown and it's not like a round. It's got some interesting, it's tiny, tiny. So hopefully it's nothing. So say some prayers for me on that. Yeah, stress is like our biggest cause of dis-ease, isn't it? It really boils down to when we feel we can't get our needs met, just the basic necessities. Food, a secure, safe, warm place to live and sleep at night. Affection, love, companionship, connection with other people, basic needs, people. It's normal to get stressed out. But a lot of it, and I'm going to even say this for myself, is created in our minds. And so I'm stressed out because clearly money's probably one of the biggest things that stress us out in this country, isn't it? Worried about being able to meet the needs of tomorrow. And for anybody out there who's ever lived paycheck to paycheck, you understand more than anybody how you're going to stretch out and budget your money for the next month or the next 2 weeks, depending on how you receive a paycheck. And I know it can be a challenge. And who wants to live in lack mentality? And who wants to live in struggle and constant stress over, am I going to be able to put gas in the car tomorrow? Maybe you have children, you have a family to support. Am I going to be able to put food on the table? Am I going to be able to pay my bills today or for the month? Am I going to have fresh water? Because God forbid, they turn off your electric, your water, whatever it is that you utilize at home, and then what? Because then, of course, there's an additional fee. So you get penalized on top of the fact that you're unable to meet things that should be free, technically. If you really look at this world. I mean, it's crazy. There's so much, what can I do for myself instead of how can I serve my fellow man and support one another. And that's where it can be a little frustrating and stressful trying to raise money to get my teeth done. Jeez, I'll tell you right now, if I got a good chunk of money donated, I'll go book a plane to Thailand or wherever it is. I'm hearing all these cheap flights and cheap dental places. I'd do that in a heartbeat. I can't technically take the time away because I've got so many other commitments at the moment. But yeah, that would be the ideal option now, wouldn't it? And the dental insurances turn out to be pretty much scams, and just another form of insurance is another form of a bank. Of course they're out to make money. They're not there to support and help us. And there's all those fine print details of you got to wait a certain grace period. You can't get rid of it. You can't just sign up and get rid of it later. Oh, and you can only use these types of fillings, and you can only do this amount of work, and here's your deductible, and here's your copay. It's like, oh my gosh. Our society is all about keeping you so distracted and stressed out, you don't even notice what's really going on. Whether it's government, politics, Hollywood, all of this media stuff. It's so easy to get caught up in what's going on outside of ourselves when we're already stressed out with what's going on around us in our own personal lives. And most of the stuff we get distracted from our own lives doesn't even impact us directly. Some of the beautiful people that have helped me are mostly in my community here. There's some of my beautiful donators. Thank you, Lori and Jackie, and if I don't say your name, because these are the first names that pop into my head, and Angelina, and I'm just really just tired and exhausted, and I really wish I had the list of everybody who's been so beautifully generous and supportive, sharing my videos, sharing my fundraiser, inviting people. Even if you can't donate, seriously, if I could just get $1 donation from everybody, I bet you I'd be able to raise it in a heartbeat. And then sometimes I get those nasty comments, and I mean, who says that stuff? Who goes looking to put someone down for asking for money? It's hurt people. And that's why I always say you got to have compassion for yourself first, because how can you extend an olive branch, an open hand, and love toward another if you don't even have that for yourself? And so I do have a lot of compassion for myself, and it takes a lot of courage for someone to ask for help or for money or for direction and guidance and how can best assist and navigate the system. Even though some people have reached out and told me about there's some dental places for veterans. A lot of them, they have certain days that they do it, and maybe it's one day out of the whole year. And Tommy and I have gone to get our teeth cleaned twice in the past 2 years. Usually, I think it's in April, down in Clearwater, not far from us. And that's awesome. That's an amazing service. And those are people who give back. And I am so grateful for that. Because that's what community is about. Community is about serving one another. And I do serve. And I don't go around bragging about what I do. People who are around me know what I do. I don't need to talk about what I'm out there doing. And yeah, I'm not asking for money. This is seva, as we call it. Selfless service. Because believe it or not, I know I get back just as much as I give, because it's all in the humbleness of showing up for others and just holding that space. And people don't value each other's time, it seems, unless they pay for it, or there's a service they get that's tangible. This is another dynamic that's interesting, especially in spiritual communities. I was just having this conversation, and how sometimes people will view you and see that, oh, you're all spiritual and yogic and stuff. Well, then you shouldn't ask for money. You shouldn't be paid. Like they don't want to pay for you, but they want you to listen to them. They want you to basically expend energy and give them your attention, which it's like, it's called spiritual bypassing too, because the reality is every one of us needs to have an energetic exchange for there to be a true give, take, receive, a blessing amongst each other. Nobody should vilify money. It's usually the thoughts and the association to money that's the problem, because money's a tool. And clearly in this day and age, if you haven't figured out, we all need it. Until some better option, like some of us will barter. We will do gifts in exchange, let's say. I need something and you need something, and we both have what the other person needs, and you offer an exchange. Because there is no value unless someone else sees the value in it. And that's an interesting thing, isn't it? See, we all have different value systems. We all have different values and what we cherish and find a priority in our lives. It's kind of like, I'm just going to use just a general example. I've heard people say, oh, I can't afford that. And then I'll watch them go and pay for a Starbucks, or they'll go and buy snack junk food. Maybe that adds up to $5 here, $3 there, $2.50 there, another $5, and they don't add it up, and they don't recognize how it could be better spent and get more value out of it, because they don't value the money they have to begin with, and their priorities are not on what they truly claim to value. And that's called a misalignment with your whole being and soul. I mean, that's where we're miserable, because we're out of alignment with what's in our heart and soul. We're looking at things that we reach for out of habit and routine, instead of looking at, do I value that? Big one that a lot of people, when you're trying to, the most common thing, I'm trying to lose weight. What are you doing to stay away from the foods that you claim are your biggest pitfalls and downfalls? Well, sometimes I slip, and you know what? It's okay. It's the stories we tell ourselves more than the explanations we give to others, which are typically our stories within our heads. Is the story really true, or are you just making it up? And so much of that is, again, based on value. If you value yourself, and even if you don't, it's all about coming back to the nourishment within. We talk about self-care. Self-care is really a return to self-nourish, nurturing yourself. I think self-care is getting overused right now, because it just adds to the list of one more thing I'm not doing that I need to do. How many of you have the to-do list and you don't get through it, and you just feel more overwhelmed the next day when you have to add to the next day's list? So when someone says, are you taking care of yourself? Do you make time for self-care? So sometimes self-care is not a bad word, but in the case that it's added to the list of the things we're not doing already, it does sound bad. And then we beat ourselves up even more. So what kind of self-care is that? Ultimately, we need to return to nourishment and nurturing, and doing the things that really uplift and elevate ourselves first. And sometimes it's the internal voice we need to speak better to ourselves. I value you. Calling upon that inner child that says, I know I've neglected and you might feel abandoned right now, but I want to remind you that I'm still here, I still love you, and we're going to get through this together no matter what. And sometimes you have to give yourself a kind word, look in the mirror and say, you know what, you may not feel well, you may not think you look good today, but I still love you. You got to be able to look in the mirror at the good and the bad, the ugly, everything that you claim to like or dislike, and you have to learn to own both, all the polarities, all the dualities of who you are, all these various flavors, as we say, as your whole. Wellness is about wholeness, and that means accepting it all. Even I'm constantly working on myself. I said the other day, teeth represents structure. And so I'll be straight up. I don't feel like my structure is feeling as strong, and that's where it's reflecting in my teeth. And that'll come out in the bones, and that'll come out in joint issues. It'll come out in so many different ways for every person. And if you're out there struggling, I see you and I feel you, because I know what it's like. I haven't always struggled, but I haven't always, I had been at the lowest when I was a little girl, and my mom was struggling to make sure that she had money, when she wanted to make sure we kids had things, so that she wanted to see us happy. And so we learn to appreciate things, especially, and value everything as a gift, probably because of the fact that we didn't always have everything that we wanted, but we always had what we needed. And I think when it's given in love, no matter what, like I said, you might not be able to, help me with the donation of money, but it's still valued if your intention is always coming from your heart. And with love, you share and you invite, and you are at least sharing kind words and prayers. Whatever you've got, it's the intention that we set. And someone's prayers out there might be the reason that everything works out in the end, right? It doesn't cost anything. So I could continue on and on and on. I'm hungry. It's been a long day. I'm really tired. Like I said, I'm stressed and I'm a little frustrated, and mostly because I want to make sure I can at least pay for next appointment next week, so I can finish off this part of my teeth. It's not easy and it's not fun when you have to confront what's going on in your life and try to figure out what's next. But one thing I have learned: take each moment by moment, day by day. Don't stress out in your mind. Listen to people like Joe Dispenza, right? When he says, what's the best way to create your best future self? It's not thinking about the worst cases of your life and projecting them into the future, but it's about creating them in your mind. So focus on what it is you want, wish, and desire, and feel it on your heart and in your heart and soul. Feel it in your physiology. Feel it in your body. That's one of the things I learned when I was at Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins. Is it really boils down to you gotta feel it. And my favorite line is you gotta feel it to heal it. So even the bad has to move. And if you don't feel that fully, you're not gonna feel the good too. Because when you numb the joy, you numb the pain. When you numb the pain, you numb the joy. You can't ignore anything in life. You can become aware of it, but you're not ignorant of it. You don't have to be immersed in it. You don't have to absorb it all in. Awareness is where it's key. And the more awareness you have, the more mindful you can be of your thoughts, your actions, your words, and such. And see, for me, I do want to be the person who turns around and can show up and say, you know what, because I know I was taken care of and now I'm in a better place, I know I'm going to be able to show up and take care of other people. And I've said that on and on and on. I might be struggling today, but maybe a year from now, I'm doing really, really well. And I'll be able to pay that forward. Because I believe in that, and I have a vision. And it's special, and it's sweet. And you just have to stay tuned to see how it unfolds. So again, thank you everyone who has donated from the bottom of my heart, everyone who has sent me your loving words, thoughts, prayers. I appreciate you. Thank you for inviting people to the fundraiser. Thank you for sharing the fundraiser and these videos. Every little bit counts. And I know I matter, and I know you matter. So when you help another, this is an energetic exchange. The universe sees that, so that when you donate, when you tithe money to anything that truly from your heart you believe in, it gets returned to you more than you gave out. Energy has to keep flowing, and I believe in the power of energy and exchange. So I love you all. You have a beautiful evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you.